Good morning, teachers, students and families. Welcome to this very special occasion, Armadale Primary School's Anzac Day Commemorative Service. We come together today to honour the memories of all of our brave Australian men and women who have served in different capacities in the defence of our country and its people. At this Anzac Day radio service, we will think about the reasons why this day holds such great importance in Australian society. Every April 25, since 1916, Australians and New Zealanders have been gathering together to observe Anzac Day. In America, they hold Remembrance Day, a victory over the British. In France, they have Bastille Day, a victory over the establishment. In Israel, they celebrate Hanukkah, a victory over the Greeks. But in Australia, we have Anzac Day, not a victory but a loss, a defeat during World War I. Why then, you may wonder, is Anzac Day such a revered and special day to Australians if it references a great defeat and not a victory?
This is taken from the address by the Chief of the Army at the Anzac Day Dawn Service, Australian War Memorial, 25th of April 2015, by Lieutenant General David Morrison. We see them now, our servicemen and women of the war to end all wars. We see them through a photographic lens that is tinged in sepia, faces stern, or laughing with mates in shades of black and white, of browns. It shapes our thinking. Their letters and their diary entries in old-fashioned handwriting and using old-fashioned expressions adds a layer to the sense that they were somehow different, that their world, their hopes, their aspirations and fears are removed from ours by more than just the passage of 100 years. They are a generation seemingly set apart. And at one level they are. When the fighting finally stopped and they returned from France, from Palestine, from the theatres of war back to Australia, so much had changed. Family, friends, their community, but most of all themselves. Our New Zealand brothers and sisters in arms experienced the same. The certainties and adventure of 1914 had been washed away in waves of loss, now replaced by the strangeness of a world no longer at war. So much had changed. They were, through fate and terrible circumstance, Anzacs by name, men and women changed forever by war. For those who had improbably survived the war, what must have they felt on their return? The long journey from Gallipoli to the breaking of the German line in November 1918, marked by failure and success, loss and lifelong mateship, had left its mark on both them and their country. There is little that separates them from those of us gathering to remember them today. Like us, they were people of their time, responding to their events in their world in which they lived. Like us, they dreamed of something better. They loved and were loved in return, were prepared to fight for their beliefs, were, like us, prey to fears and human despair. It makes their sacrifice and their capacity to endure real, despite the passage of time. It gives colour to those shades of black and white. There is a line that connects all of us to those who lived in this country over 100 years ago. It is formed by the lives and hopes of millions of Australians who have lived since then. It is a line given colour and vibrancy by our cultural richness and diversity, drawn as it is from migrants from all corners of the world. It is a line rooted in our freedom of expression and of belief, and the affirmation of our democratic nation-state. That is why we remember them, the first Anzacs and all of those who have followed. They left us that legacy, and we in return commemorate their sacrifice when we ask what legacy we shall leave for those who follow us. We have not forgotten, and we are defined, at least in part, by that act of remembrance. It makes us who we are and reminds us, in the face of an unknown future, who we can be. Courageous and compassionate, resolute and resilient. A people of our own time, reaching back 100 years with pride, looking forward with a sense of purpose to a better world.
The poem Not a Hero by Clyde Hamilton tells the story of a young boy's meeting with an old digger, a returned soldier, and their conversation about what makes a hero. Not a Hero by Clyde Hamilton. The Anzac Day march was over. The old digger had done his best. His body ached from marching. It was time to sit and rest. He made his way to a park bench and sat with lowered head. A young boy passing saw him, approached and politely said, "Please, sir, do not mind if I ask you what the medals you are wearing are for. Did you get them from being a hero when fighting in a war?" Startled, the old digger moved over and beckoned the boy to sit. Eagerly the lad accepted. He had not expected this. "First of all, I was not a hero," said the old digger in solemn tone, "but I served with many heroes, the ones that never came home." So when you talk of heroes, it is important to understand the greatest of all heroes gave their lives defending this land. The medals are worn in their honour as a symbol of respect. Old diggers wear them on Anzac Day. It shows they don't forget. The old digger then climbed to his feet and asked the boy to stand. Carefully he removed the medals and placed them in his hand. He told him he could keep them to treasure throughout his life. A legacy of a kind, left behind, paid for in sacrifice. Overwhelmed, the young boy was speechless. He couldn't find words to say. It was there the old digger left him, going quietly on his way. In the distance, the young boy glimpsed him, saw him turn and wave goodbye. Saddened, he sat alone on the bench, tears welled in his eyes. He never again saw him ever, but still remembers with pride when the old digger told him of heroes and the young boy sat and cried.
Traditionally, at Anzac services, wreaths would be laid at this time in the proceedings. The wreath is symbolic of the band of laurels worn as a symbol of honour. It is placed on monuments and coffins as a mark of respect and to honour the dead. I would like to invite you all to lay a wreath of flowers or leaves at your letterbox today to remember the men and women who have died defending our country. The ode comes from a poem by the English poet Lawrence Binyon called For the Fallen. This verse, which became the Ode of Remembrance, has been used in association with Anzac Day services in Australia since 1921. Can you please echo the last line after we come to it, which will be, "We will remember them." The Ode of Remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
The last post. In military tradition, the last post is the bugle call that signifies the end of the day's activities. It is also sounded at military funerals to indicate that the soldier has gone to their final rest, and at commemorative services such as Anzac Day and Remembrance Day. The last post is one of a number of bugle calls in military tradition that mark the phases of the day. While the rouse signals the start of a soldier's day, the last post signals its end. Would you please stand for this part of the service? We will now take 1 minute's silence to think about the brave Anzacs and to signify this is an important day. It is also one simple way of giving our respect to those who fought for us in wars in the past and to those currently serving overseas. At the end of the minute, a Wreaths will be played. Would you please sit down?
You may wonder why we have symbols tied to remembrance, to the story of the Anzacs and other service people. This poem may help to explain. It is called The Inquisitive Mind of a Child, author unknown. Why are they selling poppies, Mummy? Selling poppies in town today? The poppies, child, are flowers of love for the men who marched away. But why have they chosen a poppy, Mummy? Why not a beautiful rose? Because, my child, men fought and died in the fields where the poppies grow. But why are the poppies so red, Mummy? Why are the poppies so red? Red is the colour of blood, my child, the blood that our soldiers shed. The heart of the poppy is black, Mummy. Why does it have to be black? Black, my child, is the symbol of grief for those who never came back. But why, Mummy, are you crying so? Your tears are giving you pain. My tears are my fears for you, my child, for the world is forgetting again. Our whole school song for this service will be the War Medley that students in Year 1 to 6 have been working on during Term 1. This medley is a combination of many songs from the World War I era. Our Year 4 to 6 students start singing at the very beginning of the song, with Year 3 students joining in from Keep the Home Fires Burning. And then our Year 1 and 2 students will join in from Pack 'em Up. Our senior choir has a separate part to sing all the way through the song. Let's start singing together now.
They were summoned from the hillside, called in from the glen, and the country found them ready at the stirring call for men. Let no tears add to their just a jolly swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree. And he sang as he watched and he waited till his billy boiled. You come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and he waited till his billy boiled. You come a waltzing Matilda with me. You come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda.
We will now sing together our Australian national anthem, Advance Australia Fair. Please stand for our national anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free. With golden soil and wealth of joy, our home is girt by sea. Our land of mountain nature's rich, of beauty rich and rare. In history's pages every state of us Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant southern coast, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of us renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the seas, we found this place to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia
Please be seated once more. This brings to an end our Anzac Day Commemorative Service. We would like to thank any parents and community members for joining with us today. Thank you.
When the sun is rising east, won't you think of me, dear Mary? For the same sun will be setting where I lie on distant shore. Every letter you have sent, I keep folded to my chest, and I read them in the evening when the shells are laid to rest. And it heartens me to learn that you wait for our return from hearth to trench so far away, watching, waiting day by day the distant call of home. When the sun is rising east at the end of Albert Street, how I think of you each morning and the night that you will greet. And if there is any good, you'll return to where you stood. Not a home is without sorrow, not a heart is without hope. Neighbors gather at the gate as we watch and as we wait. Shadows fall from door to door. Things that once were are no more. The distant call of home. Yet the sun still rises east. Light dapples through the leaves of eucalypt and wattle, as though war had never been. In the eyes of those returned, untold visions deeply burned, a grief that can't be measured, for peace we ever yearn. Oaks and elms form avenues, in memory grow to honor you. A magpie sings out to the dawn, a song for those we mourn, a distant